Hello, my name is Barney Hilton Murray, and I am your host this evening. This is Good News Tucson TV, the television news magazine where we talk about personalities, um, events, and nonprofits and work that is being done in the faith-based community. And I'm here tonight with Jansen uh, of Higher Ground Youth Center. And Jansen, why are we here this evening?
Tonight we're here to do our first fundraiser for the year after we do our move. We just recently acquired a $4 million building through a partnership with TUSD called Wakefield Middle School, and we're able to save a school from closing down, a 70-year-old school from completely closing down, and turning it around to serve more youth in the community.
All right, so we're going to go inside, and we have an event full of guests and speakers and dinner. So we'll see you later.
Judge Wilson is the founder of the National Justice Foundation, the Optimist Institute for Advanced Mentoring, and the Roots College Preparatory School for Wayward Children. Judge Wilson is the recipient of the 2006 Tucson Business Edge 40 Under 40 Man of the Year, the NAACP Rosa Parks Living History Makers Award, the Martin Luther King Jr. Drum Major Award, and the Asa Philip Randolph Institute Ida B. Wells Social Justice Award. When he was appointed Chief Magistrate for the City of South Tucson in 2002, Judge Wilson was only 33 years of age, the first black Chief Magistrate in Arizona, and one of the youngest Chief Magistrates in American history. So why don't we give a warm welcome to our tonight's keynote speaker, Honorable.
Good evening. Thank you for that warm introduction. Tonight is about higher ground and it's about the youth. Proverbs 22:7 tells us, train up a child in the way that he should go, and when he is old, he will not depart from it. What Jansen is doing, what higher ground is doing, is training our children to be strong adults. Frederick Douglass, the great abolitionist, once said that it's easier to make strong children. It's easier to build strong children than it is to repair broken men. One of the things that I do in South Tucson is repair broken men and broken families. In South Tucson, a lot of people don't know this, but we have the highest per capita crime rate in the country. In South Tucson, the per capita income rate is actually lower than most third world countries. In South Tucson, one of the things that we struggle with on a continual basis is dealing with young people and dealing with adults who do not have access to the resources that they need to be successful in life. And I want to make sure that everybody knows and understands that Jansen is doing what he's doing because he wants to do it, not because he has to do it. He's doing it not because of the money, but because of his heart and because of the love that he has for children who are disenfranchised or children who don't have the resources that they need to be successful. And I think that with Jansen's energy, with the support of the people that we have in this room this evening, that higher ground in their new location in Wakefield is going to be successful. And he's going to be able to impact the lives of many more youth. I know in the past, hundreds of kids have come through his program at Jansen. But at Wakefield, I know thousands of youth will be able to come through the program. And who knows what type of leaders those youth will become. So we need to, as a community, we need to support Jansen. Individuals like Jansen don't just come around, every day. He's a rare and a unique individual, especially in this community, and we need to do whatever we can to make sure that Jansen knows that we love him, Jansen knows that we support him, and Jansen knows that whatever he needs, if we don't have it, we'll find somebody that does have it so that we can get him connected. Because he's building those strong children so they don't have to be adults that need to be repaired at some point. He's training them So even if they stray, or even if they make mistakes, because we all make mistakes, I'm sure in St. Andrews, your pastors told you more than once a saint, a sinner who's fallen down and gotten back up. I know in my church, my pastors tell me, you fall down 9 times, you get up 10. And so there will be kids who will stumble and will fall, but I know with the support of this community and with someone like James leading them, those children will be successful adults. So when you look at America, when we look at Arizona, when we look at Pima County, when we look at Tucson, one of those leaders were to come into our community, and they were to ask, how do we treat our children? What would we say? What would we say? Jansen, Habari Ganda Menta, Habari Ganda Menta, he speaks for our children. And Jansen, and what he's doing at Higher Ground, is changing the direction in the lives of many of our children who are headed down the wrong path. And so how did I make it? How was I able to accomplish the things that Daniel had spoke of earlier? It was because people like Jansen, because organizations like the Higher Ground, the United Way, churches like St. Andrews, that intervened, that came into my life and helped me and helped my brothers and my sisters make a way out of no way. Now, were all of us successful? No, not at all. Several are in prison, or have fallen to the wayside, or been murdered, or killed, or committed suicide. But when I look at their lives, and I look at my life, and I look at what made a difference in my life and what didn't make a difference in their life, that I had people oftentimes like Jansen who stuck with me, who didn't give up on me. A tough love sometimes, but always love nonetheless. But those individuals like Jansen would never have been able to do what they've done for me and help create me unless it were people like you who supported Jansen, who supported organizations like Higher Ground and the United Way and St. Andrews. And so this evening I just want to thank Jansen for everything that he's done and everything that he's doing. Again, let him know that he has my full support. I have a get out of jail free card for him waiting at the table. But it's only good in the South Tucson. There's only one square mile. But all joking aside, Jansen, congratulations on this momentous occasion, your first banquet, which is, I think, a great success. I love you. God bless you. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Introduce you to the founder and CEO of Higher Ground Resource Center, my warrior, Jansen Lawrence.
Hi. Well, for those of you who don't know me, yes, I am Jansen. I am not 15 or 11, as some of you may think. That was really my college kid. You know, it's the funniest thing. When we dropped him off to college in Christ for the Nations, everybody thought it was me going to college. You know, and they literally were chit-chatting with me like, oh, welcome to Christ for the Nations. We're so excited for you to go here. And my son would interrupt them and say, that's my dad. And they all laughed, you know, they thought, oh, this kid's a jokester. I was like, no, that's really my dad. And you know, and it's just, it's an amazing thing. And, you know, today I got a call from him, and it's an honor to get a call from Timothy, because he doesn't call people. He just doesn't. You know, and so when he gets a call from me, when I get a call from him, it's like, oh, bro, everything you're doing, answer the phone, it's Timmy. And, you know, and he was just telling me how excited he was to be in college and how everything that was happening, and you know, and it was so funny because I remember meeting him when he was 9, and you know, he was this little kid who was scared of everything. I remember I grew up in the Philippines, and forgive me, I have a little bit of ADD, so my thoughts might go everywhere. And I just remember coming in from the Philippines. Timothy was my first encounter with this generation's culture. I grew up in a very different kind of home, and I remember looking at him, and I'm like, what's wrong with this kid? I came 18, I literally dropped everything I was doing from the Philippines, came here, I didn't know anybody because America to me was the promised land, and it is to many other Filipino kids. And so to meet a little kid who would look at me and tell me when I asked him, what do you want to be when you grow up? I don't know. Oh, what do you like to do? I don't know. And, what's your dream? What's your passion? I don't know if I'll even make it to that age. To look at a 9-year-old so defeated bothered me. There's just something about it that was just wrong. Here I was in this country that everybody is literally trying to get into. And here was a kid who was born here, who has all these opportunities, and yet all he could think of was defeat. I hated it. So I started, I'm Asian. I'm your typical Asian. I know martial arts, so don't mess with me. When I first came here, I did take pictures. I carried a camera everywhere. Thankfully, my wife outgrew me of that. But I am your typical Asian, so, and on top of that, I am good with math. I hate it, but I am good at it. And so I started tutoring him, and another thing added to what bothered me. He was a very smart young man. He understood everything I taught him. And yet he was failing in school. There was something terribly wrong. Started teaching him martial arts as a way to get him out of this scared mindset. And pretty soon, you gotta imagine, okay, I'm an 18-year-old guy from the Philippines who bought a little red car because I'm gonna be a rich young bachelor driving down the freeway, and all of a sudden, here I am with this 10-year-old, he turned 10, and all of a sudden he would start inviting all of his friends to my apartment. Okay, and literally in my one-bedroom apartment, I would have 10 to 15 kids every day. It was horrible. Don't get me wrong, when I first came to America, this is not what I dreamt of doing. And I would walk in there, and sometimes, there would be these kids, and I'd be like, who are you? And they're like, are you Jansen? I guess, yeah. And it's like, no, you can't go in here until Timmy gets here. Just slow down a bit. But there was something common with all 10 to 15 kids. They're all 10 years old, and they were all already defeated. Every single one of these kids, when I asked them those questions, always came to the same conclusion at the age of 10. They will never amount to anything. It was then I decided that I had to do something. It was then that I decided that there's something absolutely wrong when in this country where there's so much opportunities, kids are feeling like they can never amount to anything. So I got married, cut the long story short, and I went to school for computer science. I love Daniel's story because it reminds me so much of how I started. I was 20 years old, and I already have a huge disadvantage. When I went to the zoo, they would ask me if I'm under 15. I was just remembering the story, and I violently said no. And they gave me the children's discount because they thought that meant I was under 15. It was horrible. And so I decided, I went to school for computer science, and I decided, I'm going to just start this. I talked to our pastor, Pastor Eli. I said, Pastor, I just want to start something. And I just got saved, don't know anything, computer science, don't know anything about kids. And I said, I just want to start something. And they said, well, what do you want to do? I said, I don't want anything religious. I just want to go into a public school and help kids out. And do basically what I was doing in my apartment in a bigger setting. There's separation of church and state, but I said, but I'm a dumb Filipino. And I'll just say, I don't know those things. And I don't know what that means. And so I went to Mr. Middle School. And this is what I began to realize. The assistant principal and the principal of Mr. was so ready that before I could even finish my sentence, they sent me 60 kids. It was astonishing to me because they didn't do a background check on me. I'm like, this Filipino guy who looks like he's 12, saying, hey, I want to deal with all your kids, You'd think, but they were so desperate that they sent me 60 kids and more. And that's how it started. I was 7 years ago. 7 years ago, I remember dealing with my 60 kids. I looked around the room my very first day, and I said, what did I get myself into? But I loved every moment of it. Because I knew that somewhere, one of those 60 kids, I will make an impact. And even if it's just one life that would change direction, my life would be with it. And I remember going through all these 60 kids, and some of them are actually here today. It's been with us for the past 6 years. And I would hear the same story, the same defeat. I have no dad, I have no mom. Or my mom and dad, they have to work 2 or 3 jobs. My family's in and out of jail. I've been recruited in the gang. We had an 8-year-old who when we said the word took out, people were taken out from one place to the next, he asked us this question, well, what did he take them out with? With a gun, with a spear, with a knife? No, like take them out of a place. But to him, the word took out, because of such, the mentality meant taken out, killed. We had talks about pregnancy to 9-year-old girls. And all across the room, all 60 kids pretty much said the same thing and echoed the same thing my son Timothy said when I first met him. I don't know if I'll ever amount to join you. So that was it. Eventually, I remember just doing it. After, by the time our 3rd year goes, TUSD came, and we had a partnership with them, and things grew out of hand, as I would put it, and I was like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? And every year, the waiting list just keep growing and growing and growing. The stories never changed, but the faces did. But it was all the same. And so finally, about 3 years ago, into our 4th year, TUSD, I gave them a call, and I was asking them for a letter of support because we needed something to work with the county. And finally, that was also around the same time that I became a nonprofit organization. Again, I took up computer science in the Philippines, so I'm really way over in my head on this. And I'm like, what am I doing? And I called TUSD for a letter of support, and they called me back and they told me I needed to meet with about 16 different people. And I'm like, I just need a letter. Please, just want a letter. At the end of that meeting, I remember Mr. James Fish, I wish he was here today, looking at me and told me, Jansen, I don't want to give you a letter. And I'm like, wow, you're mean. and he looks at me and says, how would you like your own building? Now, you gotta understand, all right? I'm looking at this guy like, what did you say? How would you like your own building? And I'm like, well, what does that mean? Like, what do I need to do? Nothing. I'm like, seriously? Let me think about it. And I literally did it. Yes! And 3 months later, we moved into Valencia Middle School. They gave us 6 rooms and an empty hall. And we were able to grow from 60 kids every day to 130 kids, K through 12th grade. That was 2 years ago. And we had still a waiting list of 50 kids. We don't advertise. It's just word of mouth. And yet, with this 130 kids, guess what? The stories never changed. It's still the same. I want to share with you a particular kid that we met 2 years ago when we first grew. And I remember this kid very clearly because, well, I'll tell you what. He's from California. He was 15 when I first met him 2 years ago. And he was sent here to Tucson to his auntie by his mom because they needed to protect him. Because in California, he was already involved in gangs. At the age of 15, he's been to 3 different drug rehabs. 15 years old. And we're not talking about a different country. We're talking about America. 3 different drug rehabs already. And I remember my son Timothy met him, and he was a wrestler. And so my son told him, and they were having problems with him already because he was running away. He was ditching school. He was just an angry, angry kid. I mean, can you imagine being shipped, miles away without any family, with an auntie you don't really know, and being forced a new lifestyle? You'd be pretty mad too. I'd be mad. Out of your own will. And so he came to higher ground because he heard there was a jiu-jitsu program. So I remember he walked into my jiu-jitsu room, and as you can tell, I'm a pretty scrawny little kid. And he was a big wrestler, and he's been wrestling for 5 years, and he looks at me with this angry, angry eyes. And he's like, you're the jiu-jitsu coach? And I'm like, yeah, I'm the jiu-jitsu coach, what's up? And it's like, took off his pants and had shorts, and it's like, I want to wrestle you right now. I'm going to take you down. And I'm like, okay. And the look on his face was like, wait, you're not gonna kick me out? I'm like, no, dude, come on, let's go. Here's the mess. And right then and there, And I'm kind of bragging now too, you know. He goes for a double leg throw and I tap him out in 15 seconds. It's like on record, I'll never let him live that. He's working tonight, unfortunately. And he looks at me mad, and he goes and comes up to me and says, I'm gonna learn from you, only because one day I'm gonna hurt you. And I wanna tap you out. And I'm like, cool, I like that. I encourage you to do that. Well, hopefully you tap me out one day, that'll be the coolest thing ever. And he looks at me like, dude, what's wrong with you? You know, and I'm like, nothing, man. Just come and stay. Eventually, I started learning more about his life. I started teaching him. I started going and going and going. Started crying. Started picking him up when he ran away. Started calling me before he ran away. By the end of that year, last year, got a straight A's at Choya High School. From happened last year, that was 2 years ago. So he comes back to the program last year, and this is what he tells me. Mr. Jansen, I want to coach. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, we have a lot of kids who want to do jiu-jitsu, and we have a lot of little kids. Can I do the kids class? I'm like, sure. And again, he looks at me like, why are you going to trust me? Like, have you given me a reason not to trust you? Well, you know my past. Are you going to trust me with all these kids? I'm like, absolutely, man. I don't care. Go ahead. And so last year, he graduated. He didn't graduate. He didn't go a straight ace, unfortunately. But he was nominated for a leadership award for his ROTC, and he was sent to Washington, D.C. for his school at Choya. And when he graduated, he was promoted to become the major for the Choya ROTC. He basically leads the entire high school Choya ROTC. He's never ran away from home since last year. He's still maintaining A's and B's. And he's joining the Marine Corps after he graduates high school. See, that's the kind of stories we have. But see, I wanted to share with you guys that story, not because I wanted to show you guys just how successful we are. I wanted to share you guys with that story because, unfortunately, he's not the only one out there. There are thousands of them, literally. You know, Tucson has one of the highest teen suicides and teen pregnancy in the entire nation. Believe it or not. There are 23,000 public school students within a 3-mile radius of Wakefield, and 75% of them are free and reduced lunch. Divorce is rampant everywhere, and it's been statistically known that kids who grow up without fathers or with just one parent are more likely to engage in criminality. There's so many of them. I wish I could say that the stories we're sharing tonight are all success. No. I wish I could say that every single student in higher ground have had that impact. Because no. The honest answer is no. We have students that have been to our program that are now adults that I'm still helping because they just could not break the cycle in their minds. Because we are under-resourced. Because we do not have enough. And I'm not talking just about finances. I'm talking about the fact there's not enough support for our youth here in Tucson in general. There's just not enough out there for them. We have kids that despite coming to our program every day, still deal with the same problem that we just cannot stop. And I'm here to tell you today that if we don't do anything about it, what legacy are we leaving? See, Wakefield to me is one of the most exciting moments of my life because finally, after 6 years, we get our own building in the heart of the battle. Wakefield is right by the city of South Tucson, and as Judge Wilson said, highest per capita crime rate. We beat Bronx, New York. And yet, one of the lower median income than a lot of third world countries. That's the kind of environment our kids are growing up into. But we have an opportunity to change something. You know, this school, a 70-year-old school being closed down, and here we are today with the opportunity, not just to save it, but to continue its legacy for our youth. Hopefully one day, Judge Wilson, thank you for your kind words, but my goal is to get you out of the job. That one day, he no longer needs to come up here and talk about repairing men's lives because we have broken that cycle. It's a big dream, but I know that we can do it. I know that if it's not just me who will stand up for our youth. But if we will all do a little part for our youth, we can all make a difference. And it just takes that one youth to catch on and change this world. See, I've come to realize at this point in my life that my calling in life is not to fulfill my personal dream, but to help other kids get their own dreams. And today I invite you to partner with us and be a part of changing a life and taking these kids to a higher place. And I would like to invite Daniel back in here. He will
Let's
talk
give a round
a
of
little bit.
applause to Jansen.